Hey, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, however you're watching this. Thank you for joining us on our YouTube channel for the Daily Word. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our content. And if you would, hit the like button and leave us a comment to let us know where you're watching from and how this is ministering to you. Now, I'm going to do this even though there's construction going on the other side of the wall here, so we'll see how this goes. John chapter 12. Chapter 12 marks the end of Jesus' public ministry in John. Chapter 13 begins his private ministry to his disciples. So he presented himself to the Jewish people with proof after proof after proof that he is their long-awaited Messiah. He is the Son of God. But in the words of John 1:11, he came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. So the historic and the horrific reality of that verse is affirmed in chapter 12. It's easy to get lost in the details of this chapter, so let me keep it big picture today. There's a small group of people who believe in Jesus, another larger but still small group of people who definitely do not believe in Jesus, and then there's a massive crowds, tens of thousands, who seem to believe in Jesus but really don't. They were impressed with his miracles. They want to know more. They're interested, intrigued even, but they don't believe. The events of chapters 18 and 19 will seal their fate and make it obvious where they ultimately stand with Jesus. Now, why do I say that? Well, take a look at verse 37. Though he had done so many signs before them, they still did not believe in him. This is not only a commentary on the Jewish authorities who wanted Jesus dead, but it's a commentary on the crowds yelling Hosanna and waving palm branches. In the face of this adulation, Jesus predicts his own death in verses 23 and 33 and calls on people to believe in him, which he also describes in verse 12 as hating one's life in verse 25, walking in the light in verse 35, believing in the light in verse 36, and seeing him in verse 45, all of which is the opposite of loving your life in verse 25, darkness overtaking you in verse 35, walking in darkness in verse 36, not believing in him in verse 44, remaining in darkness in verse 46, not keeping his word in verse 47, rejecting him and not receiving his words in verse 48. Now, why is there such emphasis on believing in him or not believing him in this chapter? For that reason, because the mass of people are being challenged to believe. Everyone in chapter 12, in other words, is at a crossroads with Jesus. Will they receive him, using the language of John 1, 12 to 13, or will they reject him? The answer, sadly, is that most reject him to their own peril. Most who were there that day, and most today reject him to their own peril. But for those who believe in him, who walk in the light, they, according to verse 26, will follow him, serve him, and receive honor from the Father, because verse 44, to have Jesus is to have the Father also. Jesus has done and said nothing at all on his own. He is 100% devoted to doing exactly what the Father wants him to do. So I hope that was helpful. In case you're wondering, I used some Warren Wiersbe commentaries to help put all of this together. Again, subscribe, like, and comment if you would be so kind, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for the Daily Word.